What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's my team selection for Game Week 16. So I'm going to run you through how the team is looking and thoughts on how to spend my 5 free transfers, which I haven't used any of yet. And to warn you in advance, this is a big rambly mess, all because of one player, Phil Foden. He's given me a massive headache this week and continues to do so. So I'm going to discuss the different options I've got with the 5 free transfers, and I'll quickly show you how I did in Game Week 15. So let's get into it. So Game Week 15 was actually pretty good for me, although it didn't feel like that for the entire weekend. FPL has a way of making each game week feel like a bit of a roller coaster. The problem is a lot of game weeks are just completely downhill, but in this case it was okay. I went from 46k in the world to 36k. So I'm not quite as high as when I free hit in Game Week 13, but I'm getting back to that point, and you can never really complain when you get a decent sized green arrow. So I'm happy with that. In terms of the points, it started off pretty badly. So the Arsenal game, I had 9 points from 3 players. So Raya conceded two points. Timber conceded obviously twice as well, but he did get defensive contributions, so finished on 3. And Saka got 1 assist, but also picked up a yellow card. So not a great start. 3 PM games come. Dewsbury Hall gets an assist straight away. So I'm feeling pretty good about that because he's really low owned, very cheap. And I don't have Phil Foden, who it feels like everybody else owns at this point. And I was away this weekend, so I wasn't properly tracking the games for a lot of the time. I check in later on, and I see Foden's got a goal and an assist. So all of a sudden, I'm in a bit of a panic. Everyone owns him. I don't have him. That's going to really hurt the rank. But of course, during the 3 PM games, later on, Dewsbury Hall gets a goal, picks up 3 bonus and 2 defensive contributions. What a hero Dewsbury Hall has been. And he's got to be put up on the wall soon, I think, because he's just got me so many points, and he's low owned. And like I said, he's cheap as well. So that helped the Foden situation a bit because Dewsbury Hall outscored him, and I would say that most people don't have both of those players in most cases. So that was good. Everywhere else, though, the rest of the weekend was just rubbish. Anderson 1-pointer. Van Dijk, I mean, I was at a restaurant when Liverpool were playing, and at one point my wife went to the toilet. I checked the score. It's like 2-0. Happy days. Could be a clean sheet here. I check again later on when I'm paying, and then all of a sudden it's like 3-3. Like Van Dijk has just been so rubbish. So 2-pointer from him. Minte 3-pointer. He's really disappointed the first 2 weeks that I've owned him. I went Mateta to Thiago. 2 points from Thiago. Haaland captain. 2 points converted into 4. Then Monday hits. Man United are playing the final game of the game week. A bit like the previous game week where they had West Ham. And you know what you do, right? You're thinking of what could happen, the big score. But deep down you know it could just be misery. Like the previous game week. Up steps my hero, Bruno Fernandes, 18-pointer. That felt good. That felt really good. When he stepped up for the penalty, I said to my wife, he's missed 2 of 3 so far this season. And she said, I hope he's been practicing. And he clearly has, because he put that penalty away. He obviously got the goal in the first half from an amazing Cunha pass. The vision from Cunha to get that assist, beautiful. And obviously I own him as well. And he finished on 5 points. By the way, I know it's going to sound really greedy. I know I've done well. I've dodged Foden and still got a green arrow. Cunha should have had more points in that game. Some people are saying that he played badly in that game. I know he missed a lot of chances and that's not ideal, but I actually thought he played pretty well. Obviously, he got lucky with the assist to Bruno because the pass was terrible, but he was the one that played the ball through to Dallo, who then played it through to Mbeumo for the goal. That was quite a nice pass. I mean, Wolves did help quite a lot in the way they defended, but it was a nice pass from Cunha, and he had about 8 or 9 shots. 2 were basically cleared off the line. There was a header from point-blank range that was saved. Honestly, he could have had a bigger score in that game, and it makes me a little bit more confident owning him moving forward. He's a huge differential. I think he's less than 5 or 10% owned, and he's got good fixtures, and I think he pretty much has to play at least from game week 17 onwards. And the fact that he's like, from a Man United point of view, I think sometimes he doesn't select the best shots. Although in this game, he did take quite a few good ones. But for FPL, having a greedy player like that will shoot on sight, things could turn around. He's only scored 1 goal so far this season. I think that was his first assist as well. So it's not been great. But Phil Foden up until game week 13 hadn't really done anything this season either. So I'm hoping Cunha can spring into life. And I'll talk about him a bit more when I talk about my game week 16 team. So most players didn't do anything. But Dewsbury Hall, Fernandes and Cunha basically saved the day. 60 points total, 46k to 36k. Very happy about that. Let's see if we can do the same in game week 16. So like everyone else this week, I've got 5 free transfers. I haven't made any early moves yet, so they're still all sat there. It does mean that I've missed 2 price rises on Phil Foden, which isn't ideal. The good news is players can only go up or down in price a maximum of 0.3 million between game weeks. So I know at least he can only go up one more time. The reason that I didn't go early is because I wasn't quite sure what moves I wanted to make, and I wanted to get the European games out of the way first. So that's why I didn't move early on Foden. It's not great that I've missed 2 price rises on a player that I probably want to bring in this week or next, but that's how it is. I've just got to deal with it. So 5 free transfers sat there waiting and 1 million in the bank. So a pretty nice position to be in. Defensively, things are kind of okay as long as Timber is fit for game week 16 and Senesi is fit for game week 17. So Senesi is on my bench as it stands, but Bournemouth have Burnley at home in 17. He came off early in the Chelsea game in game week 15. Iriola said that he hopes it's just cramp, but we're waiting for an update. So ideally, I don't want to make any moves until I hear the press conferences tomorrow. If Senesi's not going to be back for Burnley at home, he's pretty sellable because the fixtures outside of that are not that good. So potentially, for a bit of cover this week, I might go Senesi to Vandenberg, depending on what Iriola says tomorrow. So that's one yellow flag in my team. The other one is Timber. So as it stands, I've got Raya and Timber double up against Wolves at home. That looks about as guaranteed for a clean sheet as you're ever going to get. Obviously, nothing is literally guaranteed in FPL, but Arsenal against Wolves at home is quite nice for clean sheet potential. But Timber's yellow flagged. He wasn't in the Champions League squad last night. Arteta said that he and Calafiori picked up kicks. So they got kicked last weekend and they weren't ready to start. Now, Calafiori was on the bench, so he couldn't have been that bad. Timber not in the squad at all. So it's a slight concern because as much as people will tell me that Arteta always lies, etc., there are players that have been injured recently, said they're going to be out and they're out, like Saliba, Trossard, etc. So Timber is a slight concern. The only good news is he was pictured in training before that Champions League game. So unless he aggravated something, presumably he will be available this weekend. And with the amount of defensive injuries Arsenal have got, they will obviously want to play him. Now, that doesn't mean they will play him if he's injured himself. But like if I had to make a prediction right now, I think Timber probably will start. That being said, if Arteta in his press conference tomorrow is not all that positive, I may well sell Timber. And that is not a move that I would usually make, but we do have 5 transfers. And there is a certain Manchester City midfielder that I would like to get. Timber's quite expensive. I could downgrade him and free up some money. So if we get to tomorrow and Arteta says, we'll see on Timber, we're not sure, we'll have to see in the training session later, my assumption will be he'll probably start, but I might just sell him anyway. I might use that information as an excuse to sell him to free up some money. Again, not a move I would usually make because I think Timber's a pretty good medium-term hold, but he did just get benched in game week 14. There is a chance he gets benched again over Christmas. So I will say it, I am looking for an excuse to sell one of my expensive defenders to get Foden. So I've kind of got that excuse now with the yellow flag, and I'm looking to potentially take it. But I am telling you right now, it's quite likely Timber will start. So I am taking a bit of a risk. In terms of who I would go to, possibly Vandenberg. So if Senesi's fine for game week 17, I might just do Timber to Vandenberg. I wouldn't actually use Vandenberg that much after the Leeds at home game. But the reason I would go him over Collins is on 4 yellow cards. I don't want to risk the suspension because you might need a player when you don't expect it. So let's say I go into game week 17 with a bunch of issues. Brentford have got Wolves away. If Collins gets suspended, that's a bit annoying. At least Vandenberg I could use. They've got Sunderland at home in like 20 or 21 as well. So if he gets stuck in my squad, there's always a fixture later on. So I could just go straight to him. The other 2 players that I'm looking at right now are Nketiah. So just go to another Arsenal defender. And he should play while Gabriel is out. And I think with him, the view would basically be, if you need to keep him short term, that's fine. But he's also sellable in game week 17. So Everton away, Brighton at home, Villa at home are the 3 games after Wolves at home. I could play him in every single one if Gabriel is out. But potentially in game week 17, I could just go to Nico O'Reilly instead. Super attacking, no real chance of defcons, but you've got attacking threat there. And the fixtures are not bad 17 onwards. So West Ham at home, Forest away, Sunderland away would be the next 3. And then I could reassess ahead of Chelsea at home, Brighton at home. I will say, I don't think those fixtures are actually that great for Man City. Like, West Ham at home's good, but then it's 2 away games, and then the 2 home games are Chelsea and Brighton. And then the next game's away to Man United. Now, there'll be favourites in all those games, but clean sheet potential, it's still the bread and butter for a defender. So I think if I was going to do Nketiah in this week, then Nico O'Reilly next week, there'd probably be a view to kind of move O'Reilly on soon-ish. But once Ait Nouri goes to African Cup of Nations, there's not really too much competition. Like, Ake and Vardiol can play left-back, but O'Reilly's playing really well, and he seems to have that spot locked down. The other option, by the way, and this is the problem with 5 free transfers, there's many routes you can take, is just to go straight to O'Reilly and skip Nketiah. But I think Wolves, like, having double Arsenal defence for Wolves at home just feels pretty nice. So I may well just end up keeping Timber. If not, Vandenberg, Nketiah, or O'Reilly are currently the 3 defenders that I'm looking at. By the way, if I go to Nketiah or O'Reilly, that's not enough money to get Foden in the way that I want to get him. So I would have to downgrade another defender. And in that case, it would probably be Lacroix to Vandenberg. So Timber to Nketiah, Lacroix to Vandenberg. Is Lacroix a good option still? Yes, of course. But Palace are dealing with a lot of fixtures and injuries now. We know Munoz is going to be out for about a month. Like, City at home, I don't really need him. Leeds away in 17. Again, if Senesi's fine, my defence actually looks pretty good in 17. Then it's Spurs at home, Wolves at home, Newcastle away. It's not bad, but like, this Leeds game is 2 days after they play in Europe. And Glasner has already said he won't start any player twice in those 2 games. And I don't think he's going to completely rotate in the European game. I think he might go like half and half. So rotate half the team in Europe and half the team against Leeds. It's not ideal for a clean sheet. And then it's Spurs at home, Fulham at home, which is not bad. But I just don't, like, I think Palace have been amazing so far for defensive returns. I also think they've overperformed quite a bit. Maybe I just take the bet that it's the returns are going to dry up soon. So would I be saying that if I had Gay, who just gets a goal or an assist every week, or Richards, who's good value? Maybe not. But with Lacroix, maybe I'm more willing to take a risk. So potentially Timber to Nketiah or O'Reilly, and then Lacroix to Vandenberg to fund the Foden move. Elsewhere, Ray is staying, Anderson is staying as well, and I think Van Dijk is probably staying at this point. I was considering earlier on in the week Van Dijk to Vandenberg to give me the money to go straight to Foden in 2 moves, which was quite nice. But obviously I've got Timber yellow flag. I can't really justify selling Van Dijk when 2 of my other defenders are currently yellow flagged. And I may or may not play Van Dijk against Spurs away in 17, but I'll definitely play him against Wolves at home, Leeds at home in 18-19. Then it's Fulham away, Arsenal away, Burnley at home, so I can just decide what to do. If I need to sell him in, let's say Gabriel's back, and I've got a spare Arsenal slot, that's just Van Dijk straight back to Gabriel. Or maybe I just bench him for the Arsenal away game and play him against Fulham and Burnley. Right, there's options there. So I think Van Dijk is staying. Earlier on in the week, like, I can still afford to do that, by the way. Even if Foden goes up one more time, I can afford to do Van Dijk to Vandenberg and Minte to Foden. But I just don't think I'm going to do it now. I don't really want to use 3 free transfers this week, by the way. Just like, I'll come on to midfielders in a sec. I don't really want to use 3 free transfers this week, but I would still have 3 next week. So it's not the end of the world. Anyway, that's the defence. Let's talk about the midfield. So because of the fixtures that Minte and Dewsbury Hall have this week, my midfield doesn't look great, but I know that it will look better in future weeks. So Minte's got Liverpool away in game week 16. Yes, I know it's an amazing fixture, etc. But on paper, I don't think you really want to target that. But in game week 17, he's then got Sunderland at home, which will look a bit better. Dewsbury Hall's got Chelsea away, followed by Arsenal at home. But game week 18 onwards, the Everton fixture run is quite nice, starting with Burnley away. And most of my defenders have good fixtures in 17, so I could even play 4-4-2 and bench Dewsbury Hall. So I'm not really looking to go out of my way to sell either of those 2 players, but, and this is the answer to absolutely everything at the moment, I've got 5 free transfers, so why do I need to sit here with a midfielder playing Liverpool away and another one playing Chelsea away? I don't. So I could sell one of them if I wanted to. With Dewsbury Hall, I've got $1 million in the bank, so I could go from Dewsbury Hall to Dangu Tara, 1 week punt. And again, it's not a move that I would usually make, but I've got 5 free transfers, and the rest of my team, barring injuries, actually looks quite good. So I'm not in a mad panic to sell half of my team or anything like that. The problem with doing Dewsbury Hall to Dewsbury Hall to Dango Utara 1 week punt is I'd only have 6 million to spend on his replacement. And there's not really anyone at 6 million or below I'm desperate to get. So if I go to Utara and I want to upgrade him, I've then got to make a second move next week to free up the money. And the place that would come from is probably Saka. I just don't know if I want to sell Saka yet. He is definitely less valuable after Wolves at home. The fixtures do get a bit tougher, but I still think he's a really nice option to have. So I'm not going to do Dewsbury Hall to Utara because I've got no way to upgrade him afterwards without making a second move. And also, Dewsbury Hall's just good from 18 onwards. Like, I got him at 5 million. Yes, he's overperformed recently, but he's going to play every game and they've got good fixtures. So I want to keep him. The other option is to do Minte to Utara because the week afterwards I could go to Sharda, who's got Wolves away, and not bad fixtures afterwards because I've got the money in the bank. So that is something I'm considering. But ideally, I want to do Minte to Foden. That is why I'm thinking of 2 defender changes, Timber to Nkapie and Lacroix to Vandenberg. That gives me the exact money to go Minte to Foden. And the thing is, once Saka, Fernandes, Cunha, Foden and Dewsbury Hall are in place, that's a midfield that doesn't need a transfer for quite a while. Now, in 18 and 19, Liverpool have got Wolves at home, Leeds at home. So potentially I might want Szoboszlai, I might want Wirtz if he's looking good and the minutes are good, etc. But it wouldn't be a move I absolutely have to make. It wouldn't be an essential transfer. The 5 midfielders I would have in place, Saka, Fernandes, Cunha, Foden, Dewsbury Hall, are just pretty good for quite a while. So that's why I'm super tempted to do it. And this has given me such a headache this week. It's 3 transfers to get Foden in for Palace away. It just sounds rubbish when you put it like that. And yes, I've got 5 free transfers. They've just been given to me by FPL, so I should just spend them. And if I spend 3, I'll still have 3 next week. So I'd still be in a good position, and I could probably just roll. So then I'd be up to 4 the week after. So it's not the end of the world to use 3. But my issue is, I've missed all the price rises on Foden already. And I know there's going to be another one. There'll probably be another one next week, but I've missed a bunch of them already. And he's gone from not being talked about to now absolutely essential in like a split second or 3 game weeks. But because those game weeks came very quickly together, it feels like all of a sudden, not talked about, absolutely essential. The reality is he's probably somewhere in between. Like, he's not an essential pick, but he's a very good one. So how kind of desperate do I have to be to get him? Like, could I just put it off until game week 17? Maybe after game week 16, I will decide I want to sell Saka. Like, this is the problem with 5 free transfers. I could go Minte to Utara 1 week punt, and then in game week 17 do Saka to Foden, and then do Utara to like Semenyo for Burnley at home. Like, Semenyo's been sold by a lot of people. So he's not a differential, but he's a lot lower owned than he was a few weeks ago. So maybe I just get him in place. And then maybe in game week 18, I hope that Szoboszlai gets yellow carded this week so he misses Spurs away in 17. Then I pick him up for Semenyo in 18 for Wolves at home. Then he's got Leeds at home and he might be first choice penalty taker with Salah not there. There's so many options, but I think the obvious one to do is to try and get Minte to Foden. By the way, I say that. I think most people will look at my team and say, actually, the obvious move is just to do Cunha to Foden, because I've got the money to do that. So I could get Foden in one move, and that is Cunha to Foden. And look, without boring you too much about this again, had I not got Cunha in game week 12, I probably wouldn't own him right now. I'd probably have Foden in that spot instead. And I would not be sat here worried about how to get Cunha in. I just wouldn't, right? I might bring him in a few weeks' time, but I would not be looking to get him this week because I'd have Saka, Fernandes, Foden, Minte, Dewsbury Hall. I'd probably just make one move and roll. But the problem is I've got Cunha now, so the decision is different. The decision is now to use a transfer to sell him while I've got 2 midfielders with Liverpool away and Chelsea away. That doesn't feel great. And as I've said already in this video, Cunha is a massive differential. And I don't think, until he scores like a goal or 2, people won't go for him. That's just how it works, right? They want players to score, then they're informed, then they want to buy them. I want him now. I want to keep him now. I don't think Bournemouth at home is that bad. And then, okay, Villa away and Newcastle at home, not easy either. So the next 3 is not really where you want the Man United players. It's the 3 afterwards. But again, I've already got him. So the decision is different. If you don't have Cunha and you're thinking about bringing him in, you're probably just going to wait until 19. Wolves at home, Leeds away, Burnley away. But again, for me, it's different. I've got to sell him. I'm not going to do it. I've already made that decision pretty much. Maybe there's some Man United bias there potentially, but he is a less than £8 million midfielder, huge differential that I think will have. Bournemouth at home, I'm not 100% guaranteeing that he will start, but I think he will. And then 17 onwards, in Burmo and Ahmad are going, he has to start pretty much. Even if Shesh goes back, he'll start up front and it'll be like Mount and Cunha number 10s. I'm almost certain of it. I don't think Xerxes will play 10. I think he will just compete with Sheshko. Also, there's talk that clubs want to get Xerxes in January. So I think Cunha's minutes will just be pretty good over Christmas. And so therefore I want to keep him. Fernandes has to stay. And then Saka is captain this week against Wolves at home, so he's going nowhere. And by the way, I know I've been banging on about my transfers for a while. I'm pretty much locked on Saka captaincy. He played about 20 minutes in the Champions League last night. He'll start against Wolves, no doubts about that. It's just about how many minutes he gets, but I'm going to take Haaland on. Like, I do worry that at some... Like, Palace have overperformed a little bit, I would say, on defensive return. So you're always a little bit worried that the time you don't go for Haaland captain when he's playing them will be the time when they concede a few goals. But just the way they set up, they'll always make it difficult. So I'm taking him on. I'm going Saka captain. That's basically locked in. So that's my options. Timber, Lacroix, Minte out for Nkapie, Vandenberg, Foden, 3 free transfers. I think it's quite nice. But if Timber plays, it's rubbish, by the way. Like 3 transfers to switch Arsenal defenders and to get Foden for Palace. It's rubbish. That's why I don't want to do it. I'm so tempted just to do Minte to Utara. Or even straight to Szoboszlai. Because if I get Szoboszlai and he gets suspended straight away, that's not any different to Utara not being available 17. I just think, let's say Timber starts and I do Minte to a player with a good fixture this week. The only slightly bad the only slightly bad pick in my team is then Dewsbury Hall against Chelsea away for 1 week. And I only use 1 of my 5 transfers. I have 5 next week. I don't know. I'm so tempted to dodge Foden for another week and then just worry about it next week. I don't think he'll get benched over Christmas, Foden, but it could happen. And I think the fixtures post West Ham, they're good, but they're not... I don't know. They're actually not bad, to be fair. I don't know what to do. I know everyone's going to be telling me to do Minte or Cunha to Foden. I want to do Minte, I think. Also because he plays Arsenal away in a couple of weeks. Anyway, that's midfielders. Saka captain, Fernandes, Cunha both staying, Dewsbury Hall staying as well. It's just what I do with Minte. I think, long story very short here, Minte's probably getting sold this week. I'm just not quite sure who for. Dangu, Utara, Szoboszlai or Foden are probably the top 3. My forwards are at least a little bit easier to talk about. I've got Haaland vice-captain against Crystal Palace away. Not going to sell him anytime soon. And then Thiago against Leeds at home, followed by Wolves away in game week 17. Good cheap value option on penalties. Going to be staying in the team for a while. So forwards is nice and straightforward. I'm going to check my AI suggested transfers on Fantasy Football Hub. As always, if you want to check yours out, link in the description below or scan that QR code on screen to see what it comes up with. Okay, so it's got Timber out. That's probably because he's flagged now. I'm not sure he would be necessarily being sold if he wasn't, but that is a move I'm considering. And it's straight to O'Reilly, which is interesting. I might go in Nkapie first, then O'Reilly. But is it worth an extra transfer just to have an Arsenal defender against Wolves? It might be, to be honest. And the move that's funding is Minte out, which I really want to do, to Semenyo. See, I do quite like Semenyo. I think because he hasn't returned recently, everyone's selling him. But I don't think he's that bad. He'll definitely play both of the next 2 games, 90 minutes. I mean, Man United away is not terrible. Ideally, though, I want to get Semenyo in for Burnley at home. I mean, Bournemouth will probably do really well against Man United, to be honest. And Semenyo is a pretty good pick. If you don't want to sell him, then I absolutely wouldn't. But I think I would prefer to go to a shorter term punt, then get Semenyo in for 17. But that is definitely food for thought. Just to go back to the moves that I was thinking about making. So I just do Minte in for Foden, Timber to, let me just find Nkapie here. And then, what was the other one? Lacroix down to Vandenberg. So it's exact money. So if Foden ends up going up in price tonight, I can't afford this anymore. By the way, I can afford it if I go O'Reilly instead. Anyway, let's just say that I do that. I'm just going to optimize the team. So it'll be 4-4-2 this week. See, that's the other thing, by the way. I've thought about this quite a lot. There's so many options. My head is fried. If I do that triple change, it does mean that I can play Vandenberg over Dewsbury Hall. Now, that's not a great reason to spend a third transfer, but it would be a small advantage. I would rather play Vandenberg than Dewsbury Hall. I know how good he's been for me, but it is still Chelsea away. So it'll be a 4-4-2, Raya and Nkapie Wolves at home, Van Dijk Brighton at home, Vandenberg Leeds at home, Anderson Burnley away. Midfield is Cunha, Fernandes, Saka and Foden, then Haaland and Thiago up front. Dewsbury Hall on the bench, Senesi on the bench as well. Then in game week 17, if Senesi is back, I wouldn't play Dewsbury Hall against Arsenal at home, I don't think. I'd probably play Van Dijk. So I'm just worried about missing a bullet header from him at the moment. So then I would have double Arsenal defence again against Everton away. Senesi's Burnley at home. This is what I was saying about my defence. The fixtures are quite good. Senesi, Burnley at home. Anderson, Forest at home. And by the way, if I didn't want to play in Capier or Van Dijk, I've got Van den Berg now against Wolves away. That midfield four again, Foden, Fernandes, Saka, Cunha, doesn't need to go anywhere. Then Haaland and Thiago up front. And if I wanted to, so I'd have 3 free transfers at this point in game week 17. If I wanted to, I could do Nketiah to O'Reilly, who just looks like a really nice pick. And then I've got triple City in place for West Ham at home. And I can afford to do all this just about. Then game week 18, if I just optimise the team, which is the quickest way to do this. Again, Raya, Brighton at home, Van Dijk, Wolves at home, O'Reilly, Forest away, Senesi, Brentford away. I would maybe play Anderson instead, but it's pretty close. And also, I can make a transfer this week, game week 18. So one move I would consider in 18 is Senesi to Keane. So I've still got 3 transfers, so this would use one of them. I'd get Keane in against Burnley, and then I would just play him. And then again, the midfield, at this point, Everton's fixtures have turned. So Dewsbury Hall's got Burnley away. Cunha and Fernandes both at home against Newcastle. Foden, Saka, Haaland, Thiago. It just works pretty nicely. And then game week 19, again, O'Reilly's got Sunderland, Keane's got Forest, Van Dijk's got Leeds at home. The midfield at this point, I've got Cunha and Fernandes against Wolves at home already in place. Saka's got Villa at home. This is the midweek fixture, so maybe Saka gets rotated again. They've just lost to Villa. Not sure if we want to do that, although Madueke's a really good backup. Foden, Dewsbury Hall. It just kind of works. And at this point, I'm rolling if nothing else goes wrong. So this is what I'm saying about the midfield. Just every week, pretty much, it looks quite good. Like you go to game week 20, Dewsbury Hall against Brentford at home, Foden, Chelsea at home, Saka, Bournemouth away, Cunha and Fernandes against Leeds away. Once Foden's in place for Minte, that midfield just works for quite a while. And most weeks, I've always got 3 transfers at least to sort it out if something goes wrong. Like Haaland's going nowhere. Thiago's just a good option for a while. Maybe I choose 3 free transfers because after that it just doesn't matter. I don't know what I'm going to do. Just please stop buying Foden so he can just stop going up in price so I can just wait until I hear the press conferences. I don't know. Minte's going to go. Do you know what? There is part of me that just wants to back against Foden. Honestly. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to do. Let me just show you one other thing I've considered, right? So if I go here, let me do the Minte to Utara move. So I only use 1 transfer this week. So let me just make that move. And obviously I would only do that if I think Timber's fine. So Timber would play instead of Lacroix. So that's just a 1-week punt. So all of a sudden, so I've used 1 transfer. The only bad pick on paper is Dewsbury Hall against Chelsea away. Game week 17, Dangu Utara is at AFCON. I could do Saka to Foden. And then Utara to probably Semenyo for Burnley at home. And then I would just play 4-4-2 again that week. But instead of whoever, I basically still have Timber and I'd play Lacroix against Leeds away in game week 17. So the back 4 still looks quite good. And I've used 2 free transfers in game week 17. So I would have 4 in game week 18. And I'd have Foden and Semenyo, Fernandes and Cunha. So no Saka. But after game week 16, Saka's not going to get captained by me, I don't think. Not anytime soon. So he does become a little bit less valuable. And obviously I would hope that he gets rotated in 19 if I sell him. If I keep him, I'll hope he plays. The only slight, it's not even slight issue, right? But Semenyo is fine for Brentford away. When you get to 19, he's got Chelsea away, so you probably don't want him. At that point, I'm probably buying someone like Szoboszlai, who's fine. But I just don't think the midfield is quite as good as if I had Foden and Saka in place. But it's okay. It gives me options. I've also got more money to spend, like 2 million. So instead of Keane, I could get a long-term pick like Tarkowski instead. Keane's probably fine, by the way. But at some point, Brantwaite might be back. I don't know. I really don't know. The alternative option where I go for Foden for Minte, okay, maybe like game week 20 it doesn't look good. O'Reilly against Chelsea at home, but there's so many cheap defenders out there over the next few weeks that you can pick. Basically, like I've looked at this so much. Like Game week 17, I could pick up Van Heck to play Sunderland. If I've got spare transfers, I just want to move around cheap defenders, I can do that. So I could get Van Heck against Sunderland. In game week 18, you've got Keane, like I just said. Game week 19, Van Heck's away to West Ham. If I had to play Vandenberg against Spurs at home, it's not completely awful. Game week 20, Brighton have got Burnley at home. So again, Van Heck is an option. There's also someone else. Yeah, I mean, Keane again against Brentford at home. And then by the time you get to 21, that's when Vandenberg's got Sunderland at home again. Everton have got Wolves, so Keane and Tarkowski really good that week. I don't know. I feel like I just get the midfield in place and I just spend transfers on defenders until an issue crops up. Anyway, that's a long video to say I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. But there's just so many options. That's just my thoughts. I'll leave it there. Make sure to give it a like, hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you again tomorrow for final thoughts.